Hi everyone, welcome to the Coding Channel. Today is the 20th episode of our Java programming tutorial series. And in this episode, we are going to build a point of sales program with inventory and receipt using one-dimensional arrays in Java. Is it more when we come back? In programming in general, learning is not enough. You have to apply it. That's why this episode is a very special episode because it gives us the opportunity to apply all the learnings that we have learned from our previous episode, especially of using arrays and the conditional statements, the loops, okay, the input and output statements. So we will all incorporate that in one a very informative and useful program. Okay, so just to start, let's try to see the sample run of our episode. Okay, now we have here that, for example, the 24/7 pharmacy, and then these are the products that can be bought from this pharmacy. So let's say we want to buy, uh, let's try 101 for example, and then the product quantity, for example, 5, and then the system will just ask us to enter, to continue, for example, to add to cart, and then buy another, or if you want to check out. So let's say let's try to add more. Okay, for example, 102, we want to have 10 of that, and then for the another, we want to have 103. Okay, let's say 5, and then 110, we want to have also a 6, 109, we want to have 8, and then for another, sorry, that was one is wrong, and then 1 for example, we want to have 108, okay, and then 4, 107, let's say 3, 104. Do we have 104 already? Okay, let's say 105, 3, 1, and then 106. Okay, for us to try all, for example, 106. So we have 107, 108, 109. Let's try 109, 109, and then let's say 5, and then another 110, for example, and then 4, then one more. We want to have 100, which is not in the list, then 4, and then -1. Okay, so when you type the -1 there, so meaning checkout, and we are now on the payment, and we are required to input, for example, we have a total of 5548, so 5,000 is the cash. Okay, so the program will prompt you that's an inefficient amount, so we need to enter, for example, 6,000 here as payment, and after that it will generate a an official receipt. Okay, so let's try to review what's in here in the official receipt. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, so we have a total of 10. So 101 we have 5, so that is correct. And then the price is 175. The subtotal 5 times 175 is 877. The next is 102, we have 10, and then 125, and then the subtotal, then 5. Next is 104. Okay, we have entered the 104 here, and then 5, and then 492, and then 6, for example, for 110. Okay, and then take note, we have entered here the invalid product ID, which is not included in our list. So our program did not include it here because that's an invalid input. Okay, and then continue 108, we have a 4. Okay, and then 4, that's 58.50 per piece, for example. So 4 2 3 4 107. Okay, 105, let's try. And then we also have 106 here. Okay, and we bought 5, for example. and then we have 109, a 5, and then 110, another 4. Okay, so we bought the one product ID, the biogesic, 4, I mean twice. We have a total of 6 and 4, a total of 10. And then the last one is the product ID 100, which is not in our list also. So we didn't include that in our official receipt because that's an invalid input. And then that's it. And then when we click OK, and wait, we have the total. So the total here, okay, that is correct. And the cash, we have 6,000. And then the change is 452. Okay, so that's the official receipt, for example. And then after clicking the OK button here, okay, it will now generate a new product inventory. Okay, specifying here or highlighting here the number of products sold per item. For example, for Enervon, we have 5 sold. So now the quantity, the new available stocks. So after we bought all those items, we have 95 for here, 40, and then I just want to highlight for 110, we bought it twice, right? So we have 6 and 4, so the total here is 10, and then the quantity is 16. So this is basically what we're going to do. Okay, the highlight of our source code for this episode. And if you are excited and you want to learn from with this type of system, this is just a very simple actually sales and inventory system. That's why I call it a version 1.0, because I just want to highlight the to maximize the use of our arrays as our latest in our previous episode prior to this episode. So we're just talking of that. So this is just an application of that. And I know for a fact that if you are going to build the real or sales and inventory system, um, we will be having a lot of GUIs there, and then with databases, we work on databases. So this is just the start. What's important here is that you will appreciate the use of arrays and other new learnings with this episode. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we need to do uh, is to display this heading. Okay, and to do that, but before that, the very first thing, okay, is of course, since we are using the we get the user input here using console, so we need to instantiate the scanner object. Okay, the scanner, and then you have to import the scanner class, and we can display that by using um, an output statement here. Okay, so I have already here the output statement using println, and then the use of printf. Okay, if you want to display the formatted here, the table heading, okay, it's like the column heading. They have the ID, the name, the quantity, and then the price. Okay, so this is how we do it. Just have an output statement. Okay, and then also we need to store all this information. Okay, right, the data. So that's why I've created here the product ID array, one-dimensional array, to store all the product ID. Okay, from these are 10 elements. Then we have the product name array here to store all of this product name, and also for the quantity, and then we have the price, all this. So I've used the initializer list here to store all of this. Okay, so far here's the our sample code. Okay, after declaring, okay, we have the declaration there. The next step is to display what? Display, take note what we all only have coded is just this one, the column name and then the heading. Now to display this values from our array, so we need to have let's say we want to display it by row. Okay, so the first element, the row 1, row 2, and so on. Okay, we will be using arrays for that. Okay, since we have the loops there. Okay, and that is possible. I mean, by using the for loop. Okay, so this one, and then we have the printf here to display the product ID, the product name, the product quantity, and then the product price. Okay, as you can see, these are aligned. So with the help of the printf, so I've just set the spaces here. For example, for the product ID. Okay, so the first argument of the printf, we have the percent negative 5D. Okay, which only means that I want this column to be left aligned, and then I've allotted 5 spaces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to here. Okay, so and then the D, because these are integers, and then another percent negative 10s. Okay, it's because these are string. Okay, so to display the product name. So since we are inside of the loop, so during the first iteration, when the value of I is 0, so prod ID sub 0, all of sub 0, meaning the first element. Okay, and then after that, after printing the first element, we need to have a new line. So that's why I typed here \n, okay, before we end the first argument. Okay, and then start printing all of this. So we are now accessing and are displaying all the values of our array elements here. That's why we have this loop. Okay, until here. Okay, so by using this code now, okay, we have the initialization, and then displaying only the output, and we have some sort of design there, and then the loops. Okay, so the next step is the process. Okay, where the user have entered the product ID and then the quantity. Okay, that's our next step, which is the process now. Okay, and it's the center of our discussion for this episode. We are now on the heart of the problem, which is now to get the user input, and to display the user input. This one, the enter product ID and then enter product quantity. Okay, that's only possible by just using these input and output statements, which you already know. Okay, and then as you can see, we have here the it's like a repetition. Okay, until such time that the user have entered -1. That's the only um, time that we need to check out. But as long as the user wants to uh, buy more products, for example, and add to a cart, so we will continue. So the best loop that we need to use there is by using the do while loop. So we will just put this one inside of our do while loop. Okay, so we will repeat this code, okay, several times until the user have entered -1. Okay, so we will be adding another code here, which is the add to cart. For example, the user have entered one or any positive number, okay, that is still acceptable, and then the only terminating is -1. Okay, so for instance, we are going to read the next input, the third input after the user input ID and the user input quantity. So it's about time to ask the user either to check out or not. So we have the variable checkout. So, and I want to declare it first here. So we have, for example, checkout variable. And then let's just let's say, for example, we have int checkout there. That's we need now to compare that. Checkout is what? Checkout is not equal. It's not equal to -1. Okay. Okay. So we will go. We're going to repeat these statements here. These input statements. Okay, so let's try now to run the output again. Let's try. Okay, run. Okay, we have line 41. Okay, about the user ID. Okay, so the user ID and the user input, these are all ID, the product quantity and the product ID. These are integer. We have the user ID. Okay, we need to declare it there. And then the product quantity, the user input quantity, you just have to declare it here and just a semicolon. And let's try to run so far. Okay, if you run this, so we have now the product ID here waiting for our input. Okay, so these are the first two steps that we have created. Okay, this one and this one, first step, and then the second step. Okay, and then we are now on the third step. Okay, so for example, we have entered 101 and then the quantity of 5. Okay, it will ask us to what? To just ask, okay, if we want to end or not. So let's say if we want to enter 1, okay, it will just continue to ask another. Okay, 102 and then 4 for example, and then another, and then 103 for example, and then 5. Okay, and then -1 to end. That's the progress now of our code. But whatever we type there for the input ID and for the quantity, nothing will happen. Okay, except for the loopings that we have here. So meaning to say, the heart of our problem, we will put it here. Okay, we are now going to analyze what are the codes that we need to include in here, so that just to process this input. Okay, because as you can see, if the user have entered 101 and then 5 for example, we are going to make sure, okay, and there's a repetition here. Okay, this is the main repetition, the do while. Okay, I prefer do while because as you can see, before we test, okay, we display. So that's the advantage of using do while in this type of like a menu type of output. Okay, so we display the input statement first, and then later we ask the user to either to exit or not, or something like that. Okay, so let's go back to the this one. It's I want you to analyze also this, because this is the heart now of our um, program. Okay, so every time we ask the user for the product ID and the quantity, the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that before we accept this, okay, we need to validate if this product ID is within the list or not, because we're not after of the invalid input there. Okay, what we are only accepting here, and that's included in our official receipt, is these are inputs. These are valid inputs. Okay, which are the available stacks, for example, that we have here. Okay, so aside from the do while, it seems that we will be needing, since the product ID, this one, needs to be repeated, and every time the user have inputted, okay, 101 110, so we need to also traverse in our loop. So meaning, just to simplify our code, if you're not going to use a loop there, a for loop for instance, okay, we will be having 10 a group of codes. Okay, so that would make our program more complicated. So okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we will be needing a for loop there. Okay, the first, for example, we have for int index is equal to 0, and then we have index less than, um, let's focus on, since these are 10 elements, we can just focus on the prod ID here. Okay, so that to get the array elements, so we have prod id dot length, for example. ID, we have here the, let's try, and then index. plus plus. Okay, so here we go. The heart of the problem, we will put it here. So this one is a very crucial. Okay, and it let's try to analyze what's next. um, we need to determine if the input is valid. We will only accept this input, okay, this quantity, for example, and process it once once we validate it. So how are we going to validate it? Inside of our for loop, we will be needing an if statements here. Okay, so for example, we have now an input, the if statements, okay, asking to for us to check, to double check if the user input ID here is equal to the product ID sub 0. Since we are now on the loop, okay, so for instance, we are checking if the user input is the first, is it the first element. So prod ID sub 0, okay. So if it is equal, okay, our next condition, okay, to test is the user input quantity. Okay, because if the quantity is less than the product quantity that we have listed here, for instance, the input is 101, this is out of range already. Our stock is only 100, for example, for the first product or first item, so we will not accept that. Okay, so once this condition is true, since we use the end logical operator here, that meaning this if condition will be true if we satisfy the left and the right comparison here is both, both these are both true. That's the only time that we go inside the if statements, or execute the statements that we are going to write or to type, okay, within these if statements. Okay, and what is that now? Okay, the next step is we need to multiply the user input quantity. These are the inputted by the user to the product price sub 0. For example, 101, we inputted 101 here. Okay, so we'll multiply the quantity that. Okay, let's say the user have inputted 5, so we will store to a new variable cart subtotal. So this will hold the subtotal of each item. So every iteration, the value of our cart subtotal is updated. Okay, let me just declare that a variable. So this one will hold the cart subtotal will just hold what? Double values. So just have to initialize it, for example, just to 0. Okay, so that's it. After we assign now the user input and user quantity, okay, we need to be to add the grand total, the subtotal to the grand total. Okay, how are we going to do that? By having grand total plus equals, meaning grand total is equal to the previous value of grand total and subcard. Take note, we've used here the assignment statement, the plus equal sign. Okay, and you know that already. Why we need that? Okay, the difference is that if we only just use equal sign here, so the value, okay, of the grand total will not concatenate the previous value of grand total. Okay, so that's the meaning of this one. This is very important. Okay, that we concatenate the previous value or the old value of grand total to the new value of the cart subtotal. Okay, so we will just add it. Okay, and since we have the new variable here, so we will just declare it again here. Okay, for example, for the grand total. Okay, so we have the 0 also there. Okay, as initial value. Then after that, we need to update the product quantity. Okay, so by having product quantity sub 0 is minus equals user input quantity. Okay, so that the inventory will now be updated. Okay, so because in our if condition here, if the user input quantity is greater than the available stock, so we will not accept that anymore. And after we have store the product to the cart subtotal, and then we already have concatenate it to the grand total. Let's say we are on the first iteration, okay, and also we already updated the product quantity. The next step is to start displaying now the whatever output that we want in our official receipt. Okay, and how are we going to do that? Um, since we are just limited on using either the arrays here or from the previous episodes that we've talked about, that you've tackled, I've decided to just concatenate it with a string. So let us try to declare and initialize first the variable for that string. So I can just have here, for example, we have output string, and then we have the ID, the product name, the quantity, for example, and then the price, and then the subtotal. Okay, so this is the column heading in our receipt. Okay, and then so this is the initial value of our output string, and then we will concatenate um, all of this. Okay, the needed information in here. That's a very important. Okay, so the next step is the string concatenation. Okay, so since we have the output string and the initial value there, okay, I'll also have here the output string. This is now concatenating the product ID sub 0, for example. Okay, if the let's put it this way, if the input is 101, that's the product ID for the first element. Okay, so for example, we are in the first iteration, so the product ID sub 0, and then I just put a tab there to have a space, and then plus, so the product name, okay, another tab, the user input quantity, and then I explain this my format. Okay, you have the product price there, index, and then the cart subtotal. Okay, if you visualize the previous output that I've shown to you. Okay, now, so let's talk about this format. Okay, I need to use the format method of the decimal format class to make sure that we only have two decimal places for the product price, for example, as well as on the cart subtotal. Okay, now, so before we can make use of the format method, we need to declare first and instantiate an object of decimal format class. And for example, the my format is my own version of that format. Okay, so we need to instantiate that object. Okay, so what I did was, okay, I just have to instantiate here. I just put it here. Actually, I've created the three format, and I'll explain to you later. Okay, so these are the format. Okay, using decimal format class. So this is new to you. Okay, so my format, this is the first format that I'm going to use. If you just want to specify, for example, two decimal places. Okay, and then don't forget to import the decimal format under Java that text that package. Okay, and then this one is another format that I'm going to explain to you later, so I'll just include it here. Okay, if you just want to have, let's say for example, if you're working on thousands of numbers, and if you want to put a comma there, so you just have to specify the format here with the decimal places and then with the dollar sign, for example. Or if you're just working on hundreds there, and you don't want the comma or any excess zero there, so you just can just simply put a format, a decimal format like this. Okay, but so far in this step number 3, we are only using the my format. Okay, so that's the meaning of that here. And then also, before we end this, since this one only works for the first item, only for the first item. So after that, don't forget to put a \n, so that the next string that we're going to concatenate is now will be printed now on the next line. Okay, so for example, if the user have entered, let's say, one, just to add to cart and continue again and buy again, so we will just loop here to ask another input, and then for example, that's for the input number 2, and then using a loop we will search that if it's included in our array. So that's how it works. And I just want to highlight before we end the if statement here, to use the break keyword, so that, for example, just to save the time. So once we already, for example, on the first iteration, we get it already, so no need to test it again. I mean, to traverse to our loop, because this the first condition is already true. Okay, so let's go out of this for loop and then execute this statement again. Okay, so let's try now to uh, run this. Okay, so far we have, for example, 101, and then if the quantity we have 5, and then add to cart. Okay, let's say 100 and then 5. Okay, that's an invalid input, but that's already later we will just show it to you. If we enter -1 here, okay, nothing will happen. It's because what we only did here is the process in 3, we don't have the output yet. Okay, so I categorize it to just work on it on the step number 4. And we are now on the step number 4, which is the printing of receipt. Okay, and let's take a look at this code that I have here. So let's try to run the program now again. Okay, so for example, we have a 101 and then 4 and then 1 and then 102 and then 5 and then -1. Okay, we have now the we're ready for checkout now, and then we have the total here of the items, total 1328, for example, and then waiting for the payment. Okay, what we did here is that we just have to print this one. Okay, just part of our design, for example, and then here's now the another output for the grand total. So I've used the format 2 that I have specified here, this one with the dollar sign here. So that's why, as you can see in our output, there's a dollar sign there, and there's a comma also. Okay, since we are expecting thousands there. Okay, that's what I just did there. Okay, and then next is we need to get the user input for that. Okay, the cache input. So we can just specify here the cache input, and we just have to declare it here. For example, we have the variable declaration, the cache input, that is double. For example, the cache input, and then let's just have to initialize it to 0. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so keyboard.next double, for example. Okay, now we want to double check if the cache is either equal or greater than the grand total. Okay, and to solve that problem, I have here the while loop. Okay, the while loop to check, okay, if the cache input is less than the grand total. Okay, because if it's less than, okay, we will generate the insufficient amount, and then also the, okay, I just have to align it here so that you can see now. We have the insufficient amount plus the grand total. Okay, we will just display this again. Okay, if it's insufficient, then we will just ask another input, cache input, for example. So for as long as the user um, have inputted the insufficient amount, so we will just loop on this code. Okay, and then if the user have entered either equal or greater than the grand total amount. So it's about time for us to give the change. Okay, and to do that, we have now change is equal to the cash input minus the grand total. That's easy. It is now. Okay, and we will just have to change. I have here the change due. Okay, we will just have to declare this. Okay, in here for double, and then for example initialize to 0. Okay, the change due there. Okay, that's it. And then the total. Okay, so next is this one is a new topic, which is actually, since we are seeing the receipt, the official receipt in a dialog box. So what I did was I just created a text area first, so that we can print the you can see the output in a text area. Okay, and how are we going to do that? By declaring a JTextArea. Okay. Okay, in here I'll just add some more items here. Okay, the JTextArea with the number of initial default or initial rows. That's the number of rows and a column. That's the size of my JTextArea. And don't forget to import also the JTextArea under javax.swing package. Okay, so let's go back to step number 4, printing. So we have now the change due. You know that already. Okay, and then I want to increase the size, okay, of my text area, the font there. That's why I use a font here. So for example, I have a declaration above here. My font is equal to new font. I want a comma, and then that bold, and the size is 18, for example. So but before that, you have to import that under java.r. Okay, so I will be using the my font object now to use the for me to use the set font method of font class. Okay, and then I just have to put here the object name that I've created. Okay, so the text area now will have 10 rows and 10 columns. Okay, this is the default size. Okay, that we specify. And then we are now going to write the string there. Okay, or just to paste all the string that we have created or we have assigned. Okay, by using the set text method. Okay. Okay, so meaning the set text is actually the other meaning of set text is to replace. Okay, to replace a new value. Okay, so what are the string that we want to display um in our text area? So first we have the heading. Okay, for example, we have pharmacy, the 24/7 pharmacy, and then there's I just put a tab there. Okay, just to make it um, make it look organized, and then the official receipt, for example, there. And then here's the thing, the output string. Take note, we use the output string. All of the output, we store it in the output string. Okay, in the in step number 3. So now we are now using the output string here. Okay, to display all the items that have been bought by the customer, plus the other string. Like for example, if you want to display the total, and I also formatted the total. Okay, the cash input, and then the change due. And then, for example, we want to have the thank you for shopping with us. These are just all the simple design, and then just an output statement. So these are all inside of our text area. And then after that, we have written using set text method. Okay, it's about time that our text area, take note, this is our object name that I created there. So that's the second argument now of our show input dialog. Okay, it's like you're just pasting it, the text area in our dialog box. Okay, and I've used 4 arguments here of show message dialog, and as you can see, I've omitted there the default icon. So to do that, you just specify still the first argument is null, and then for example the name of your text area or component there, and the third is the text that you want to display in your title bar, okay, of the J option pane, and then the this one is the plain message icon, just to remove the default icon there. Okay, that's what I did. Okay, so let's try now to run this one. Okay, so for example, we have now 101, and then we have the quantity. Okay, 5 1 1 sorry, 1 1 1 0, and then for example 7. Okay, and then 1, and then 105, for example. We have 8, and then just a negative 1, for example, to end. Okay, so the total is 2516. Let's try a 25 only, for example. So insufficient amount. If we try this one, 3000. Okay, so here we go now. The official receipt. So we've bought 1 2 3 3 items. So 101 110, okay, 7, the total, and then change. So this is now the J option pane with the text area within. It's like we paste the text area using the set text method here. Okay, so take note of the strategy that I've used here. Okay, just to simply display the pharmacy, the official receipt there, and then these are all the 101, all this one, these are all inside of our output string. So take note the power of our string concatenation operator there because of this one. So we display now all the user the items that have been bought. Okay, and then once you click the OK, you're supposed to display the inventory here. So that's lacking. That's the last part actually of our program, which is the step number 5. Okay, and the last part is the inventory, step number 5. Okay, I just want to emphasize here the use of println. Okay, this one just the table before the table, and then the table heading. I just use the printf method here, which you know it already. Okay, and then just to display all the the values of our array elements, I also use here the for loop. Okay, but this time I just modify it by just adding the product sold. Because this one is just an inventory, we don't need to display the price anymore. But what's important here is that we know how many items are sold in each item or yes product, or and at the same time we display the new um, uh, available stock. So by displaying it, since we already updated the product quantity, for example, this one is our array. Okay, so after we bought something, okay, so the product array is now the quantity, the product quantity, this one, okay, is now updated. Okay, so that's considered as our new, okay, a new I mean the available stocks or balance. Okay, and then these are the items sold, and also we have the product old array. So I have created here, okay, the old the product old quantity. Okay, for example, so this one, just to retain for me to have a comparison. Okay, just to compare, okay, the updated one to the previous one. Okay, so that's what I did. And then you know this also already, these are just you just need to um, control the spacing. Okay, it depends on the output, and then the thank you message. That's why with having this by you know completing this, now we have now a simple inventory here, and then the printing of receipt, And then the heart of the problem is on this the step 3, which is the process, and then the step 2 in just displaying. Okay, so if you are now going to run this, so that's why for the last time, okay, for example, so let's have a 101 and then a 5, and then okay, let's try another 102, 103, let's say a 7, and we want a 102, okay, a 5, and then let's try another, let's try a 104 again, okay, 7, okay, and then I want to have 105, okay, 8, and then 109, and then 6, and then I want more 110, okay, for example I want 20, and then 108, okay, I want to have 5, for example 107, sorry, 107, okay, 5, 106, okay, and then 8, and then for example -1. You have now the payment, okay, 9,000 for example. Okay, here's the receipt now. As you can see, here's our official receipt. Okay, 5, okay, 106, okay, 7, and then we have now, after clicking the OK, you can see now the updated inventory. So we have the here 20, 50, 70. So that's it. That's a simple sales and inventory system using array. So before we end, I just want to highlight that every time we create a program, for example, especially if you are working on a large project, so just make sure that you've used comments there. Like for instance here, I've grouped here all the for the object instantiation, for example, our declaration, and just put it here, okay, as part of my step 1, okay. And then for the step 2, these are we just simply display the output, okay, and then we also the values in our array. And then step 3 is the process, and then the printing, okay, and then the inventory. So that if there's a problem in the inventory, you just just go over here and then check only on this part. Okay, if there's a problem when it comes to printing, so let's say the generating of a receipt, for example. So this is the only part where we generate receipt. So you just go over here also for the receipt. If you have problems with the output, with the logic, so just review the process. Okay, so that's how we create the simple sales and inventory system. And that's all for today. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And as always, show your love through comments and favorites. God bless and thank you for watching.